Namaste, Hamisha Kushwavitia. I am JV and Dr. Minakshi, Assistant Professor in Department of Shalakya Tantra, Faculty of Ayurvedic Science, Jyoti Vidyapith Women's University. आज का हमारा टॉपिक है chronic dacryocystitis. So first we will read the etiology. Etiology of chronic dacryocystitis is multifactorial. It is a vicious cycle of stasis and mild infection of long duration. Etiological factors can be grouped as predisposing factors, factors responsible for stasis of tears in lacrimal sac, source of infection, and causative organisms. The predisposing factors are age, more commonly between 40 to 60 years of age, sex, more common in females, comparatively narrow lumen of bony canal. Third predisposing factor is race, rare among Negroes, and NLD is shorter, wide, and less sinus than in whites. Fourth predisposing factor is hereditary, the facial configuration, length, and width of bony canal. Fifth factor is socioeconomic status, more common in low socioeconomic status. And sixth factor is poor personal hygiene. The second etiology is the factors responsible for stasis of tears in lacrimal sac. First factor is anatomical factors which retard drainage of tears include comparatively narrow bony canal, partial canalization of membranous NLD, and excessive membranous folds in NLD. Foreign bodies in the sac may block opening of NLD. Excessive lacrimation, primary or reflex, causes stagnation of tears in the sac. Mild grade inflammation of lacrimal sac due to associated recurrent conjunctivitis may block the NLD by epithelial debris and mucus plugs. Fifth factor is obstruction of lower end of NLD by nasal diseases such as polyps, hypertrophied inferior concha, marked degree of deviated nasal septum. Tumors, atrophic rhinitis causing stenosis may also cause stagnation of tears in the lacrimal sac. Third etiology is a source of infection. The lacrimal sac may get infected from the conjunctiva, nasal cavity, or paranasal sinuses. Fourth etiology factor is causative organisms. Most common are Staphylococci, Pneumococci, Streptococci, Pseudomonas, Pyocyania. Then comes the clinical features. There are 4 stages of chronic dacryocystitis. First stage is stage of chronic lateral dacryocystitis. Second stage is stage of lacrimal mucocele. Third stage is stage of chronic suppurative dacryocystitis. And fourth stage is stage of chronic fibrotic sac. Then first stage of chronic lateral dacryocystitis, it is characterized by mild inflammation of the lacrimal sac associated with blockage of NLD. Watering eye is the only symptom in this stage, and sometimes mild redness in the inner canthus is present. On syringing the lacrimal sac, either clear fluid or the few fibrinous mucus flakes regurgitate. Dacryocystography reveals block in NLD, a normal sized lacrimal sac with healthy mucosa. Encysted mucocele, sometimes due to chronic infection, opening of both the canaliculae into the sac are blocked and a large fluctuant swelling is seen at the inner canthus. With a negative regurgitation test, this is called the encysted mucocele. Then the third stage of chronic suppurative dacryocystitis, due to pyogenic infection, the mucoid discharge becomes purulent, converting the mucocele into pyocele. Clinical features are epiphora, associated recurrent conjunctivitis, and swelling at the inner canthus with mild erythema of the overlying skin. On regurgitation, a frank purulent discharge flows from the lower punctum. If openings of the canaliculi are blocked at this stage, the so-called encysted pyocele results. Fourth stage is the stage of chronic fibrotic sac. Low-grade repeated infections for a prolonged period ultimately result in a small fibrotic sac due to thickening of mucosa, which is often associated with persistent epiphora and discharge. Dacryocystography at this stage reveals a very small sac with irregular folds in the mucosa. The complications of chronic dacryocystitis are chronic intractable conjunctivitis, atropine of lower lid, maceration and eczema of lower lid skin due to prolonged watering. Chances of corneal ulceration are those as single corneal abrasions may become infected. High risk of developing endophthalmitis is always there if an intraocular surgery is performed in the presence of dacryocystitis. Because of this, syringing of lacrimal sac is always done in suspected cases before attempting any intraocular surgery. Then comes the treatment part, treatment of chronic dacryocystitis. First is conservative treatment, second balloon catheter dilatation, third is DCR, fourth DCT, and fifth CDCR. First, conservative treatment by probing and lacrimal syringing, which may be useful in recent cases only. Long-standing cases are almost always associated with blockage of NLD, which usually does not open up with probing. You can see this image of probing, how the lacrimal probe is inserted through the nasal cavity. This is an image of the lacrimal syringing. Second treatment plan is the balloon catheter dilation, also known as a balloon dacryocystoplasty. It can be tried in patient with partial NLD obstruction. Success rate in adults is 50%. You can see this image of balloon DCP, how they've inserted a wire with the balloon, then it is inflated in the NLD to open the blockage in the NLD. DCP, a blocked tear duct, which causes tears to build up, sometimes require surgical treatment. Balloon dacryocystoplasty is a type of surgery used to open a blocked tear duct without making an incision in the nose or face. This surgery is not often done in children who are younger than 1 year. During surgery, a thin guide wire is inserted through the hole in the corner of the eye through which tears drain, that is puncta. The wire, which has a tiny deflated balloon attached, is threaded through the obstructed area. The balloon is gently inflated with the liquid. The pressure of the balloon opens up and expands the blocked duct. The balloon is then deflated and removed along with the wire. For adults, a local anesthesia is used for a balloon dacryocystoplasty, which is usually done in doctor's office. Most people can go home right after the procedure is completed. The pain is often described as similar to having an injection. Young children are usually given general anesthesia for this procedure. To prevent infection, antibiotic eye drops or antibiotics taken by mouth are often used for several days before and after surgery. Sometimes medicines like corticosteroids are given after surgery to decrease the tear duct swelling. Balloon dacryocystoplasty leaves no facial scars and has less risk of complications than dacryocystorynostomy, that is DCR. It is sometimes used if a person cannot tolerate general anesthesia, wants to avoid a surgical scar on his or her face, has tear ducts that remain blocked after dacryocystorynostomy surgery. Risks include a high recurrence rate of tear duct blockage than if external dacryocystorynostomy is used, a false passageway being created by the guide wire, complications from the local anesthesia. Then comes the DCR part. The treatment plan, DCI should be the operation of choice as it re-establishes the lacrimal drainage. However, the before performing surgery, the infections, especially in piocele, should be controlled by topical antibiotics and repeated lacrimal syringing. The DCR steps are have been discussed in the separate PPT. Then the DCT, it should be performed only when DCR is contraindicated. Indications of DCT include too young, that is less than 4 years, or too old, more than 60 years of age, or marked shrunken and fibrosed sac, TB, syphilis, leprosy, or mycotic infections of sac, tumors of sac, gross nasal diseases like atrophic rhinitis. An unskilled surgeon, because it is said that a good DCT is always better than a badly done DCR. Then the last surgical procedure is CDCR, the conjunctival dacryocystorynostomy. It is performed in blocked canaliculi. This procedure is a complete bypass of the lacrimal drainage system. A CDCR is indicated when the canalicular abnormality is so severe that the canalicular system cannot be used in the reconstruction of the tear outflow apparatus. A Pyrex glass tube, Jones tube, is placed through an opening created at the inferior half of the caruncle and then through an osteotomy site into the middle nasal meatus. A partial carunculectomy may be needed to prevent obstruction of the tube. The ocular end of the tube must be situated in the tear lake, whereas the nasal end must clear the anterior end of the middle turbinate. You can see the Jones tube. Subtotal resections of the anterior middle turbinate may be necessary. The surgeon should have tubes of different lengths available at the time of surgery so as to implant a tube that emerges clearly in the nose without abutting the nasal septum. Postoperative care and complications, including obstruction of the tube with mucus and migration of the tube, can be troublesome. Forced inspiration with the mouth and nose manually closed creates significant airflow through the tube into the nasal airway and usually clears mucus debris and prevents obstruction. Patients should be instructed to perform this maneuver daily. They should also be informed that loss of the tube, even if only for a few days, may cause significant closure of the soft tissue tract for the Jones tube. Periodic removal and cleaning of the Jones tube in the office, followed by immediate replacement, may be needed. Jones tubes themselves often cause chronic foreign body sensation and mucus production and may incite pyogenic granuloma formation. Despite these drawbacks, many patients with otherwise intractable epiphora are helped by this procedure. Thank you so much. This session is powered by Digital Version 2.0, Jyoti Vidyapeeth Women's University. I hope you're satisfied with my digital session. If you have any query, please write in the comment box. I will resolve it. Thank you so much.